Hi there, thank you for joining us. The losses are staggering on their own, but it's what lies ahead that could be even worse. General Motors and Ford are warning they could run out of cash in just a matter of months. Now, keep in mind that 1 in 7 Canadian jobs is connected in some way to the auto industry. 1 in 7. So an industry collapse in North America is something many of us have a stake in. We'll cover this developing story from several angles tonight, beginning with the nuts and bolts of how bad it really is, and Mike Drolet in Toronto. Mike.
Kevin, we've heard of some huge dollar figures being lost by some large automotive corporations, but we're also hearing about jobs. 500 at the car plant in Oshawa, Ontario, and likely another 500 more at the Cami plant near London, Ontario.
There have been few bright days in the auto industry in the last 5 years. Today was likely the bleakest. In the morning, Ford announced it had lost $129 million in the third quarter of this year, is planning on cutting 10% of its white-collar workforce.
It's another bad cut.
Bad, but nothing compared to rival General Motors, which lost a staggering $2.5 billion over the last 3 months. The news was so dire, merger talks with Chrysler were put on hold.
I am absolutely scared. Absolutely scared. It's a dark day again for the auto industry in the city of Oshawa, for Canada, across North America.
The losses are bad, but it's the billions in cash the automakers are burning through every month that could see their historic engines seize up. In fact, both Ford and GM could run out of funds sometime next year.
There comes a point where you can't go back to lenders and say, we need more money. They're not going to lend that money right now.
For Canadians, the doom and gloom isn't as omnipresent as it is in the States, but by all accounts, it will be. In fact, on car lots, the industry in Canada looks healthy. Auto sales in October actually increased 1.5% from this time last year. But in the U.S., sales have been catastrophic, decreasing 31.9% from October 07 to October 08.
You will see different companies emerge. They will be leaner. They will be smaller, most probably. There may be fewer brands around, but there's a lot of things that could be on the table, but certainly things will be very different.
So how bad could it get? Consider in the U.S. the auto industry is the largest purchaser of steel, glass, and other raw materials. So 1 in every 10 jobs is directly or indirectly tied to the auto industry. That number is 1 in 7 in Canada. Because of that, the Center for Automotive Research predicts if one or more of the big three collapse, 2.5 million jobs would be lost within a year. So it doesn't matter how many cars are sold in Canada. If the U.S. auto industry gets chopped down, Canada likely won't even hear timber.
These are tough times. I mean, we've been through tough times before, but not this tough. It's a little scary.
And they have reason to be scared. GM says more layoffs are on the horizon, and some analysts are predicting at least one of the big three could be filing for bankruptcy sometime soon. Kevin?
All right, Mike. Well, with that dire warning, the calls for taxpayers to ride to the rescue of this vital industry are growing more urgent. In Ottawa and Washington, discussions at the highest levels are underway about how much help to provide and what kind. We're joined now by Eric Sorensen in Washington with details on that. Eric?
Kevin, in just the 3 days since Barack Obama's election, the economy has spun further out of control, with the auto industry going right into the ditch. Obama held his first news conference today as president-elect, and the question is, can the man who campaigned for change now be the agent of economic change? Barack Obama met with his blue ribbon economic team today. He's not president yet. He cannot usurp George Bush, but Obama also cannot sit back. The country is hanging on what he says he'll do. First, on today's shocking tremors in the auto industry.
The auto industry is the backbone of American manufacturing.
Obama wants efforts to retool the auto industry sped up and will look at new policies
to help the auto industry adjust, weather the financial crisis, and succeed in producing fuel-efficient cars here in the United States.
Does he mean here in the United States and not in Canada? Canadians, like the rest of the world, are watching Obama closely. He stopped short of backing a straight bailout for automakers, who lobbied for help on Capitol Hill this week but got no commitment.
Looking out for the taxpayer and looking out for the workers as well as for the industry.
Canada's Prime Minister, who's also responding cautiously, not backing a short-term fix, is likewise under pressure to help the Canadian auto sector.
This is an urgent issue that the Canadian government's got to step up to the plate and give it the same interest that they gave the financial community in Canada and in the United States.
There's little Barack Obama can do till he's actually president, except, says this analyst, reassure Americans he's ready.
They need to move very promptly to re-establish confidence and to demonstrate control as best they can over an economy that is slowing very, very dramatically.
And re-establishing confidence is what this demonstration of economic brainpower behind him was all about.
And it's not going to be easy for us to dig ourselves out of the hole that we are in. But America is a strong and resilient country.
Technically, none of this is Obama's responsibility until his inauguration, but it's clear from everything he said today that the economic crisis is not going away, and he expects it to be waiting for him in January. Kevin?
All right, thank you, Eric. Well, let's bring in CanWest News national correspondent David Aiken now, who has more on the overall U.S. job numbers, which, David, are pretty grim.
Well, the auto industry is certainly where we find the most pain in the U.S. economy, but there is a lot of pain to go around. Take a look at these charts, Kevin. These bars represent the month-by-month job losses in the U.S. this year for all non-farm businesses, and it has been unrelenting bad news. Tens of thousands every month. Nearly 1 million Americans have lost their jobs this year, including 240,000 last month. That is a stunningly bad result. Now, take a look at this chart. These are the Canadian job numbers, and these have been surprisingly good. With the exception of June and July, we have seen job gains every month this year in Canada, including an all-time record in September, and a surprising, albeit small, gain of about 10,000 jobs last month. Now remember, while the American economy has shed 1 million jobs so far this year, Canada's economy has gained more than 200,000 new jobs. Now, analysts and economists have been saying for months that with the American economy slowing, we will not be able to avoid job losses here in Canada, and yet just about every month we see a surprise the other way. Now, those storm clouds that have been on the horizon for months are indeed darkening. Demand for Canadian goods from other countries is slowing, and autos is the best example. And it seems inevitable that that is eventually going to hit Canadian employment numbers. The question really is, when will the cuts come and how deep will they be? Kevin?
All right.